Welcome back to the Elevate Experience. Today's topic is an interesting one, and another that we're touching on that I don't think is talked about very often, and pretty much is in almost every household, if I had to guess, or the majority of households. So it's commonly overlooked as anything very dangerous, especially as we're heading into flu and cold season of the year. We're going to start seeing a lot more of this around, a lot more people ingesting it, and there's real dangers that need to be talked about. And so we'll head right into it, Tom. Cough medicine, specifically the ones with DXM, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Very common household, supplement, it's cough suppressant, and it's in a lot of different products. And when you use it in high amounts, it's called Robotripping, and that the name is from Robitussin. That's one of the more common, products that you could buy in the store. But there's some serious, hidden dangers to taking Robitussin or in that amount. And yeah, you would think it's, a harmless thing, just because it's over the counter. But there's, yeah, some serious side effects. And it's definitely good to talk about, educate families. I really feel people turn to using cough suppressants maybe too quick. I mean, there's so many natural ways to, approach being sick. And, these medications, they all have side effects. And especially if you're using, this drug to get some sort of euphoric feeling. So it's definitely a great subject to educate families on. And if you're in recovery, you may want to consider, not taking it at all. So.
Yeah, well, and I think it's interesting because like when I think about it, I think, oh, cough syrups. Yeah, okay, we'll avoid the cough syrups. But it's actually in the pill form as well. So it's not
Mhm.
like you can just avoid it by taking the capsules. I think what like Tylenol PM and different ones that like these contain these ingredients. So it's not like, oh, well, as long as I don't drink the syrup or have that in my house, we're going to be safe, because that's not the case, because now you have it in ingestible pill form as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sneaky and like we said, it's common. You can get it anywhere and you don't necessarily have to be 18 to purchase it. So and yeah, families should be aware of this because, it's mistaken as being very safe, but teenagers will, reach for a high, and this is an easy high. This is one that, you may not suspect. It may not show up in a UA, so a urine test. But yeah, high doses of this can affect the brain in similar ways, like ketamine or even PCP. And it can lead to some serious accidents, psychological disturbances, and in some cases it could actually lead to death, which is really scary.
Yeah. And again, it's just something that's hanging around in your medicine cabinet. So you don't necessarily think this is going to be a dangerous substance, but it
Mhm.
absolutely is, especially when you start mixing it with other things. So you're
Yeah.
taking your cough medicine and some drink, or your cough medicine and some other kind of substance. Now, just like any substances, when you start mixing them together, they each have their different side effects. Together, they create their own effects. It even furthers the amount of danger that a person can get into by just quote unquote taking cough medicine.
Yeah. Some interesting statistics. So, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the NIDA, roughly 3% of eighth graders reported abusing a cough or cold medicine in the last year. The American Association of Poison Control reports over 6,000 cases of abuse annually, with hundreds requiring hospitalization. And the FDA has warned that large doses can lead to seizures, even comas, death, like we said. And this is especially when it's combined with alcohol too. So you're drinking a little bit, and then you start to push for even a little bit more of a high, and you could be in some serious trouble. It's so scary to hear somebody that young experimenting with the cough syrup and them, potentially being in a coma. I mean, that would be so devastating for a family. And just something we want to try to help families avoid by providing this education. So
Yeah, and it's interesting. Again, like when I was growing up, you would have to chug cough syrup, and cough syrup is disgusting. It's thick.
yeah,
It's like got this weird chemically taste. It's like, in my mind, I'm like, who would ever drink that to get high?
right.
But now with the ability to just take capsules, just like vitamins, just like a
Mhm.
supplement, I think it's much easier to take well over the recommended amount and easily get into this high state without paying the price of chugging this nasty cough syrup, more or less. And
Yeah.
so, what are some of the other ones besides Robitussin? What are some of the other over the counter brands that we've seen out there and that families should be alert for?
Some of those brands, Robitussin, Mucinex, Vicks, VapoStream, Buckley's Mixture. Yeah, there's quite a few over the counter. So I would say most cough suppressants, anything marketed as a cough suppressant would probably use the DXM that we're talking about in the supplement. So the full name is dextromethorphan. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's one of those long words.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, taking a look at the ingredients, the active ingredients is always something to look for. I'm sure there's other supplements like cough suppressants that maybe don't have this in it. So, if you're concerned, you like don't want this at all in your body. I sure don't. So yeah, definitely look at the active ingredients.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so what are some warning signs? Like if we have families, it's this type of year or this time of year and your child or your loved one is originating, hey, I don't feel good, let's get something here. What are some
Yeah.
warning signs that they might be taking more than they need to or a little more often than they need to?
Yeah, I mean, it is something that you could see, starting that addictive behavior starting to show up, right? Somebody's being secretive, with, maybe purchasing online orders. That's something that, if you're abusing, DXM, you're going to start to need to get more and more often. So, keeping an eye out for, yeah, packages coming in. There's going to be mood swings. This stuff has some serious psychological effects. You're really going to notice paranoia. When you're high, there's hallucinations. Uh, and also if somebody is intoxicated with it, yeah, there's going to be slurred speech, that their balance is going to be off. It's going to look like they're drunk, but you're not going to smell alcohol. And that's where it can be really like a sneaky drug that people use. But another thing to look out for is because it does require fairly high amounts to get an effect, there's going to be bottles of the cough syrup lying around or blister packets. So keeping an eye out for, if you're suspicious, definitely, I hate to tell families to do this, but you have to do some detective work. You have to look through the trash, see if you're noticing anything that could really shed some light to the amount that somebody's using of this. And, I would be very sparing with the amount of cough syrup that I would recommend. I'm not a doctor and I can't necessarily recommend that, but anything you put in your body has to be processed by your liver, and it's going to have side effects. So although it's safe, it's FDA approved, it's still something to be somewhat mindful of. You're putting it in your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also say look for prolonged illnesses or somebody who's repeatedly, oh, I got another cold. Oh, I need to stay home. Oh, I need, my medicine so I feel better. I got to work. So I would be mindful of that type of behavior because once you realize, I mean, I think we all learned this as a kid. If I'm sick, I get to stay home. take some medicine, lay in bed. This is a great life. But as someone is progressing down the addictive side of things, those colds, illnesses, reasons to take it, reasons to not have to do anything else start to become more and more and more. And then, like all other substances, as they're ingesting more and more chemicals, their natural immunities start getting suppressed. And so then they are more apt to get sick more often because they're taking medications and suppressing their own immunities to be able to fight off common colds and different types of things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you take high amounts of this stuff, DXM, uh, it increases your heart rate. Like it really will push your heart rate to the max because your body's trying to process this chemical, and it'll raise your blood pressure. It will, cause you to start sweating. It's very serious. It's similar to like alcohol poisoning, where if someone is, using high amounts, they become completely out of it. Like they're slurring their words, they can barely walk, and it's a really scary thing to see. I've actually seen somebody had used way too much Robitussin, maybe 4 bottles or 3 or 4 bottles. I can't remember the exact amount. And it was scary. We had to carry him to the car. He was unable to walk, and take him to the emergency room. And I believe they pumped his stomach because it's just so toxic to let all that fluid process through your body. So, yeah, there's definitely some serious health risks, and not to mention that, so a lot of these cough syrups, they have other things in with the medication. So if you're, trying to get a lot of DXM, you're probably also getting a ton of acetaminophen. So, which is, it can cause some serious liver problems, especially in high amounts. So another thing to be concerned with, it's not just if you're searching for this drug, this DXM, I mean, I don't want to tell you how to be a good addict, but you have to be aware that there's tons of Tylenol also involved, and that can be really harsh on your body, especially over time. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely
And I would
toxicity.
add to that. So, like, I know, I haven't taken anything in years, but when you're in there and you're looking at up and down the aisles and there's a million different products, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I can take this one for flu, but this one is for flu and cold. Well, I don't actually even know what I have, but let me take the one with the more stuff just to cover any of the bases because I'm being ultra cautious here. And that is like what you're talking about, where it starts to become very dangerous because now we're taking a lot of things in addition to the other things that probably we don't need to take, but we're taking it to be quote unquote safe
Yeah.
or, handle any of the possible things that could be going on. And so then you're exposing your liver and your body to all kinds of more chemicals than you actually need to be doing to handle this one specific thing. Now we're adding in acetaminophen, we're adding in all these other things just to be sure on possibly anything and everything that could be wrong with you.
Yeah, and I would say minimal effective dose, like that's what you want to err towards if you're so sick and so like your fever is extremely high and you have a cough that's been lasting for a really long time. I would encourage somebody to try to push through because natural immunity is better. This is more of just like a mask, and it relieves temporary symptoms. Doesn't necessarily help you fight off what's occurring. So, yeah, minimal effective dose for sure. And if you're worried about dyes, all this stuff is dyed with, tons of food dyes and things like that, which, we know is not good for us now. So something to definitely be aware of. And they do make these products, I believe, without dyes in them. But still, try to reach for, tea and honey. Like those are, natural remedies of suppressing a cough. And it's always lots of fluids. Bone broth is a great way if you can't eat to, help soothe your stomach and, give you some nutrients to fight off whatever it is whatever virus you have. So, yeah, just some things I like to mention to people that, especially in recovery, because Any of this stuff can alter your frame of mind, and it can make somebody more susceptible to relapse. It can impair your judgment just a little bit. It can kind of block you spiritually. And so, I would say, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
But
Well, and you brought up a good point, and just like with the other substances, when you have somebody that's in recovery, and we've seen this, and this is why you have that story, is somebody starts feeling like they want to use, but maybe, I'm not going to go back to heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, but
mhm.
let me take some cold medicine. Oh, that made me feel kind of good. So they can kind of go under the radar as far as a full-blown relapse, or somebody who's struggling with addiction again, because it's so commonly acceptable. It's so understood that, oh, yes, you have a cold, take some cough medicine, totally okay. And so that is the slippery slope that I think anybody in recovery needs to be highly aware of, because it does create a high, which can in turn create the craving for more chemicals or drugs or alcohol that's going to create a similar high, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would say also to anyone in recovery, if you're looking for a high, then you need to continue to get help. You need to talk to somebody. You need to, go to a meeting, or, start having weekly therapy appointments. Maybe join a intensive outpatient program. There's, better things you can do. And you're just, it's a common thing people say, you're just lying to yourself, right? If you think that this is less bad, it's still a relapse. If you have the intention there to get high, that's absolutely a relapse, no matter how you look at it. So, yeah, an important point I would like to make.
Yeah, and I would say it could even be accidental, just like we see so many people come through the program. They were a stellar athlete. They had an injury or accident. They got prescribed medications, and all of a sudden now that becomes an addiction. So a lot of times people aren't searching to relapse. It can happen accidentally, but because of how it reacts to the mind and the brain, it can start that process back over for them. Even if their intention was not to get high,
Yeah.
it can still inadvertently, accidentally create that full-blown relapse in the individual, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad we talked about this. It's a super important topic. I don't think a lot of people are discussing it or talking about the side effects. It may seem like a harmless thing. Taking a little more cough syrup, or going through large amounts of cough syrup, and getting some effects. Like, it can be hard to, when you're sick, if you're starting to feel good, you probably maybe took too much, right? And then that, people can chase that addictive behavior. But yeah, this carries some serious risks, and there's cognitive impairment, liver damage. There's plenty of reported deaths from this. And so, yeah, if families are suspicious of, their loved ones possibly abusing this, they should seek professional help immediately. It's a very dangerous drug to mess around with, and, treatment, support, and recovery is absolutely possible. So, we're here to help. We're here to be a resource. And yeah, thanks, Angie.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show again, Tom.